Hello everyone and welcome to Caroline Nutrition. This is episode 4, Energize Your Life. I'm your host Ian Cath and I'm the one with the interest and questions to help us have the best that food has to give, health, vitality and enjoyment. And to help make some sense of all the information that's out there, I'm joined with Caroline Scott, nutritionist and dietitian, and the person with all the answers to your questions. Yes, yours, people. Hey Caroline, how are things today?
Good, thanks, Ian. How's it going for you?
Yeah, really good, actually. I had a great course, went to a great course last week, and I'm hoping that it's going to help my health in a few subtle ways. I'll get back to you later, people, about that one as things developed. But yeah, really, really good. And I'm looking forward to getting into this episode, all about energy, isn't it?
Yes, all about energy and how to improve your energy.
Which is something that I know everybody loves talking about. So how are you feeling today, mate? Bug it. Yeah, that sort of comment. I think energy is one of these pinch points within modern society, and a lot of people struggle with it, having enough juice in our tanks to fight out there in the corporate world. And that's what we're going to talk about today, isn't it?
It is. I wanted to bring up this topic because so many of my clients rock up, and in answering the very first question, what can I do for you, always energy appears as one of their main problem areas, one of the issues that they really want to tackle. They don't feel they have enough energy, or if they've got energy, it's very fluctuates during the day. They start off well and then they burn out by mid-afternoon, or their energy picks up in the early evening. It's just not a nice even keel through the day. So we often have to look at their lifestyle habits and choices and their dietary choices to see where their energy is flagging. But I agree with you, it's a societal thing, and I think we're all just trying to do too much. Yeah,
and we all want to feel good, don't we? I think so.
Yeah, I think so. We do. We all want to feel good. And often people will just reach for something really convenient and quick to give us a really quick fix if we're feeling like our energy is flagging during the day.
So we drag our sorry asses out of bed first thing in the morning and we reach for a coffee to try and give us that kickstart into the day. But I imagine that we've got to do a little bit more than just that to get through the entire day.
Is that a question or is that a statement?
No, it's more a statement. It's what I do. I have a cup of tea and then a coffee, and then I jump on my bicycle and I fang into work. And I know I needed to get started, and I think almost everybody does in this modern society.
Well, I'm sure a lot of people would like to think that they just enjoy coffee, but in actual fact, I think most of us are addicted to coffee, the caffeine. And yes, we're using it as a kickstart in the morning, and that's not necessarily a great idea for our health at all, but it's part of a cycle that we've got ourselves caught on. So with that, we need to break the cycle before you can actually let go of the caffeine. It's a vicious cycle we're stuck on. We use caffeine in the morning and maybe mid-morning and maybe mid-afternoon, and often we're so wound up from the caffeine that come early evening we're using alcohol to wind ourselves down and get ourselves ready for bed. So it's a vicious cycle that we are often caught. It's like a trap we're caught in. So I agree, I love coffee too, same as everybody else, but it's not necessarily the way to get your energy levels going for the day.
And we say that we have coffee to give us energy so we can do things in our day, but coffee doesn't actually give us energy. Can you explain where energy comes from?
Oh, that's a really big question.
Yes, it's huge, I know. So let's have the small version.
Okay, so for the non-geeks out there amongst us, so that excludes me.
That's me. Hello.
That's you. Okay. So energy is made in our body. It's made in every little cell in our body. And there's a very complicated metabolic pathway that creates energy. But very basically, the food that we eat breaks down in our digestive system. It gets taken into our tissues, into our blood, and on a cellular level, in the mitochondria of our cell, in the nucleus of our cell, we have a mitochondria, and in that mitochondria is where we actually use up all of that nutrition, particularly glucose that we ate the day before in terms of food, and it gets broken down, turned into a little molecule called adenosine triphosphate, ATP for short, which is an energy molecule, and we can use that to run around during the day or to fuel our brain, so to allow us to think whatever it is that we're demanding of ourselves. So depending on the type of diet that we're eating and the type of food creates the kind of energy and the level and the frequency. So if we eat infrequently, our energy levels will flag. If we eat the wrong type of foods, our energy levels will flag. So there's a whole science behind it, really.
So within each of the cells in our body, we've got this little mitochondria. So in our brain cells, in our muscle cells, wherever, that mitochondria is turning these glucose particles, molecules, into something that makes them function and do their thing. Muscles, twitching, things like that.
Sort of, yeah. You're making energy molecules which allow the body to do its thing, yes.
Right. Okay, so I get that. That's how the muscles and all the other cells in my body work. But sometimes when I eat something, I feel tired shortly afterwards, particularly lunch. If I have something, I just have that mid-afternoon flag. What's going on there?
Right. Okay. So this is often the knob of everybody's problems, are the kind of foods and the combination of foods that they're choosing at particular times of the day. So to get a really decent energy burn, a really even energy burn, you want to make sure you have a really even release of glucose. This means you want to combine your proteins, your good quality fats with a small amount of carbohydrate. What tends to happen for us, and particularly around lunchtime, and we can go into actual various scenarios if you like, but what tends to happen is that we tend to turn that combination on its head. So we have a fairly large carbohydrate component of the meal with maybe some fat, maybe not, and maybe some protein or maybe not. Or again, you have those people who think they're having a really healthy diet by having just a wretched old green salad like a rabbit would eat. And then they wonder why there's absolutely no energy at the end of that. So what's happening is our body will burn up that carbohydrate very, very quickly. And so we might get a bit of a peak of energy, but that will last for a very short time. And then we don't have the long sustained energy that keeps us going. So if we've eaten lunch, say at 12:30, 1 o'clock, by 3 o'clock, we've got our heads on the desk. Or we're sniffing around the office looking for caffeine or chocolate or whatever it is. There's something to give us a pick up, or even fruit. I have clients that survive on fruit and they tell me they have no problems at all, but when we take the fruit away, their energy levels crash. And it's because they're not having a balanced diet. So the trick here is to make sure every time you eat, whether it's a meal or a snack, you think first about the protein on your plate. Then you consider how much good quality fat that meal contains. And then you fill it up with beautiful green vegetables, well, vegetables of any sort, but some complex carbohydrates. And those carbohydrates are whole foods. So they look like things like our sweet potato and our broccoli and our vegetables. What they don't really look like are carbohydrates like rice, pasta, bread. So when you have a lunchtime meal consistently of sandwiches, and let's face it, it's basically just a bunch of old bread, isn't there? And some stuff stuck in the middle of the bread. You're actually getting this very, very quick peak of energy and then nothing. Whereas if you were to have a beautiful fillet of fish with some steamed vegetables or a lovely salad but with some protein in the salad, you're going to end up with a much longer lasting energy. Does that kind of make sense?
It does. I just see some difficulties though if you want, if you're going to work and you want to take some sandwiches or something to work, can you... is all bread bad? If you use the better quality breads, is there less of an issue with that? If there is brown rice better than white rice, is there lesser evils that are better compromises?
Oh, yeah, there are some, but really... Essentially, no, it's about the quantity of each. So if you are someone who thinks, oh no, look, I've got to have my sandwiches, well, fine, make it a really good quality bread to start with. So nothing white that's totally depleted, which is basically just starch. So that's just a real quick burn. It's like putting kerosene on a fire. You have a spark and then it's gone. So to give yourself a better lasting energy, use a different type of bread, a better quality bread, a spelt bread, a sourdough loaf, something with a whole meal in it. I mean, I'm not a big grain fan anyway, so I don't really love bread. I tend to eat very little bread, and I suggest most people should eat very little bread. But if you must have bread, choose a better quality bread. And then make sure that it's really packed full of proteins and good quality fat. Because what's happening here is the fat will help to keep you full, so you'll feel more satisfied. The protein will give you a longer burning energy, and so will if you choose the right kind of carbohydrates. So if you're choosing more vegetables rather than grains, rather than crackers, rather than cereals, puffed rice and all those puffed cereals that they put into, say, energy bars, they don't give you energy at all. They're giving you that really quick spike. You're better off with a couple of dates. You're better off with a handful of raw nuts than those puffed grains. Does that help?
Yeah, no, that helps a lot. So I suppose if you're going to go to work, you're better off maybe trying to take a salad with an avocado in it, and instead of 4 pieces of bread to make your sandwiches, you have maybe 1 piece of bread.
Yeah.
Things like that. Increase the proportion of those quality fats and proteins to the carbohydrates, even if they're not maybe the perfect carbohydrates like a sweet potato. If it is something like bread, have the best quality bread and as little as is practical.
Yeah, you're right. It's the combination. And I think it's, as long as you're still getting beautiful, nutritious foods, so we're eating lots of our plant-based foods, I think, I mean, for me, if I've got to go to work, I'll take a salad box. So sure, if you wanted a piece of bread in that, then that's fine, but have a salad box. So you've got loads of salad veggies. Take a little container with you, or pour, a tablespoon of good quality oil over the salad. Take it with you so you can do it just before you eat it if you don't like soggy lettuce. Hemp seed oil, coconut oil, olive oil, whatever you have there, pumpkin seed oil, whatever your fancy
all those
is.
really high quality fats that you keep talking about. Yeah.
And this is really important. This is what feeds our brain during the day. If we're not eating those good quality fats and we don't have them in sufficient quantity in our diets, we do not have the ability to function, particularly with our mental capacity. We don't have the ability to function during the day properly. We need those fats. They're utterly essential.
A lot of people talk about sushi and how much they love it and how healthy it is, but with the amount of rice in it, I'm starting to question it.
Yeah, I'd be questioning it too. When you think about sushi, what are you thinking? I'm thinking white rice. Right. So again, that's like kerosene on that fire. So you're getting a quick spike and then that's it. There's not much after that. And sure, you can have a tiny little bit of salmon in there, or tuna or chicken or something, but it's not enough to outdo the rice that's in that meal. If you were going for like a sushi train kind of meal, I'd be looking more at the seaweed salad, the sashimi, so the raw fish or the chicken or something, and vegetables and avocado by all means. But I wouldn't be doing the little sushi rolls with rice. Maybe have just one small one of those if that's what you love, and then fill up your plate with all the other things.
I noticed something in my own life just in the last couple of years, really, Caroline. I had been eating a lot of fruit. Fruit's good for you. That's what everybody said. 3 pieces of fruit, 5 cups of vegetables a day. That's what all the recommendations were. So particularly over the summer months, I was eating, probably 7 or 8 pieces of fruit, stone fruits. I really loved it. And as much as I enjoyed it, I had all these weird reactions. And I found that I was snacking on the fruit all day long, and it kept me going. But I'd jump on the bike and I'd ride home and I'd feel totally exhausted when I got home.
Yeah.
And I thought that wasn't quite right. And just in the recent months, I've wound right back on the fruit, and now I'm only having 1 piece of fruit a day, and things are a lot better. Is this what you're talking about?
Yeah, it is really, because fruit, we're really sold this story that fruit's a great food, and it is a great food, and it's a great package of minerals and vitamins and all the nutrients part of the nutrients that our body wants anyway. But we can really overdo it on fruit because fruit is so sweet. Most fruit is so sweet, and we tend to go for the fruit that's the sweetest. So without you having to say, I bet you were choosing high sugar fruits that taste really, really yummy.
Peaches and plums and nectarines.
Bananas and mandarins. So we go for the really highly flavoured, really sweet fruits because we love it. And we create this kind of almost craving. We're stuck in a cycle of, it's a bit like the caffeine story. We're using the fruit to give us the quick burst of energy, and we get addicted to that quick burst of energy because it does feel good. And it corresponds to that quick burst that you get in your brain of that feel-good chemical. So our bodies want to go back for that. And every time you feel your levels getting just that little bit lower, you're looking again for that quick fix.
That's exactly what I was doing.
Yeah, I've had clients who are exactly the same, and they've been eating bags of fruit, and also it's affecting them in other departments. Now, I don't know whether you want to go into this because it's a little bit, public really, but I know I potentially had a client a while ago, not you, who was eating a bag of fruit, and let's just say he was going to the toilet way too much. And when he went to the toilet, there was just way too much there. And so we decided, and he was losing weight, this was not a good outcome. So we decided the best thing to do, we put him on a trial for about 7 to 10 days where he cut the fruit out completely. So this is someone who's gone from being almost a fruit bat, eating a bag of fruit, to absolutely nothing on a daily basis. And the change was enormous. Not only did the whole toilet thing resolve itself, thank goodness for that, but his energy levels picked up. So he had this much better level of energy during the day, which was continuous even through into the evening, whereas before he was coming home from the office by 7 o'clock and he was just exhausted.
Yeah, it's counterintuitive, isn't it? You sort of think by eating the sugar, eating the fruit, which everybody recommends, that you'd have more energy, but it doesn't work that way.
No, it doesn't. And we really need to restrict ourselves to 1 to 2 pieces of fruit a day. It's all you need. What we really need a lot of are the foods that will actually give us not just the sugars, the vitamins, the minerals, but also things like the fiber. Fiber in our body is another really slow burn. So it helps us to maintain good energy levels. And of course, it gives us all those other great things like keeping the bowels moving. It helps with our digestion, and it also helps to feed our friendly bacteria. And I know we're going to spend time talking about that in later episodes. But fiber is something that's really important. So the more fiber we can get into our diet, the better. In fact, I was listening to something the other day, and it was comparing modern day humans, that's you and me and us really, to some of the more ancient humans, and they're looking at tribes that are still existing in Africa that really haven't had an awful lot of contact with the West, and their level of fiber is something amazing, like 120 grams a day, whereas generally we can manage to get to 20 or 30 grams a day. The difference is enormous. And that amount of fiber will give us a huge level of energy, but also it will give us all the other good stuff that the body is looking for. Now, a few years ago, there was this talk around the glycemic index. And the glycemic index is something I like to bring into whenever I'm talking about energy. But I don't want people to get carried away with it and use the idea of the glycemic index to really run their lives, because you can get too reliant on the figures and the numbers and stuff. So the glycemic index, and it was an Australian scientist who's come up with it really, which is kind of great. It's an index of food. So every food is put against, they started with white bread actually and white sugar, but particularly white bread. And they wanted to see how quickly that would create energy in the body. And so it was given a figure, and then every food was based against that. So you either have food that reacts even faster in the body, which is going to give you the quick burn, or slower. So it gives you the longer lasting energy. So you can then choose the foods that have the longer lasting effect than the quick burn. You could check this very easily by looking at Google and just look at the glycemic index. If you just pop that into Google and have a little look, and it will give you an index of foods. It will bring it up really, really easily for you. But what I suggest to people is, rather than relying on that index, it's great to have a look and have an idea of what it is so you understand it. And when you read about it, you understand what the glycemic index is doing. But really we still need to think about is how we're putting our foods, our carbohydrate foods, into our meal with the proteins and fats. So I think you can really do your head in. The high glycemic index foods are the ones that are like 70 and above. The low glycemic are 0 to 55.
So dates are 100 as an argument.
Yeah.
And non-starchy vegetables are less than 15.
Yeah. So they're the ones you want to choose.
So if you're long burn, you want to stick around vegetables. Fruits, plums at 24.
Yeah, there are some that are quite a low glycemic index. But again,
probably because they've got a lot of fibre with them, is that right?
Yeah, well, all the fruits got fibre. It's probably just it's the amount of sugar that's in those fruits. They're not as sweet as other fruits. So when you compare dates and plums, you know that dates are way sweeter than plums are.
Yeah, but
berries are quite low on the glycemic index as well. But I think the danger here is that you can really get carried away with looking at an index and going, right, I can only eat low glycemic index foods. And then that becomes a problem. And it's a shame because then you cut out some of maybe your favourites or some other beautiful foods that have got other aspects to them that we want. But you just have to remember that when you're eating a high glycemic food, you don't want the whole meal doesn't want to be about that. And you want to make sure you're still combining it.
And you want it to taste nice as well.
Well, that's it. And that's where it comes into tasting nice, doesn't it? If you cut out dates because they're high glycemic index, what a shame.
Yeah, and if you're only having 1 or 2 dates in another thing, it doesn't matter so much. It's almost insignificant. If you were to mix dates with non-starchy vegetables, which is way down the bottom,
which sounds really weird.
It does, doesn't it? But that they will counter each other out, and it won't be a big deal.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I kind of counsel people against, it's great, the index is a great thing to use, but I counsel people against really going too far into it because I think it will just end up doing your head in.
Okay, so you just talked about fibre, is that it?
Well, yeah, I could talk all day about fibre. So the fibrous foods to really look out for that I think really help us to keep those blood sugar levels even so that we don't get those peaks in our energy levels. So things like psyllium husks, things like inulin, which comes in food. So sure, you can go to a health food store and buy a bag of inulin and sprinkle that over your food, but really seriously, folks, let's eat food. So it will come in our fibrousy veggies like your asparagus and your artichokes and anything that's green, broccoli, cabbage, Brussels, all of those things, kale. I bought a very fibrous bunch of kale last week. Oh dear, it was red kale. It didn't go so well in my smoothies. But fibre, even in things like your beans and lentils, quinoa, chia seeds are good for fibre. There's a whole bunch of foods that are really great for fibre that we need to include. And the more fibrous foods we've got, the more even your energy levels will be. I think that's the take home about fibre.
What else would you have to say in regards to this whole greater topic?
Well, look, if moving away from foods just for a moment, there are other things that we need to consider in terms of our lifestyle choices to give ourselves energy, and to get us off that whole treadmill that we were talking about right at the beginning of, starting the day with caffeine and ending the day potentially, for some of us, with alcohol. Not me, of course, never, but just occasionally. We need to look at other lifestyle choices, and that's things like how much movement, how much exercise we're doing during the day. We need to make sure we're moving our body adequately, and for most of us that could be okay, and for some of us perhaps it's not enough, and we need to think about putting more exercise into our day. We need good quality sleep. So for a lot of us, we really need to sort out our sleeping patterns and making sure we're getting enough sleep and that we're asleep at the right times during the night. So we're not waking up too early, but it's a balance of getting to bed on time, not too early, not too late. It's like that Goldilocks thing, isn't it? The sweet spot. So we want to make sure we're getting good quality sleep because in our sleep, we have to remember that this is where the body does all of its detox. It's a bit like the computer. It's like pressing the reset button on the computer to be in sleep. It helps us to retune everything. So exercise, good sleep, drinking plenty of water will also give us plenty of energy. I often say to people, if you're feeling tired in the afternoon, before you go reaching for any more food, I'd be having a good slug of water, because often we're dehydrated and that would lead to fatigue quite quickly. So making sure you're having plenty of water during the day. Exposure to sunlight is another one. We need to get plenty of sunlight and fresh air during the day as well. And all of these things will add in the end to having good energy levels. So it's not necessarily completely about our diet.
It's really pretty common sense now that I stop and think it through. Yeah, some of the food stuff's a little bit technical, but it's the old story, isn't it? Eat food, real food, and get good rest and water. Basically, it's the same old message time and time again, with exercise, of course, too. It's the same old message. It keeps repeating it over and over again.
Well, that's right. And it kind of has to lead you to believe that, hey, look, let's not reinvent the wheel, but maybe we need to take out a lot of the noise and just keep things really simple.
Actually, that's a really good way of putting it. When you think about being stressed and depleted of energy and lethargic and everything, it's probably all of the extra activities that need to be dialed down some way, or the bad foods or the bad drinks that need to be removed, rather than necessarily a whole heap of stuff added in sometimes.
Oh, I agree. And I think for a lot of us, and I see this particularly in younger women, we're all just trying to do too much these days. So the young women that come into my clinic, that they may or may not have children, but they invariably work. They also do extracurricular activities. They train themselves to within an inch of their lives. They're very, very concerned about body image, and that leads them to excess exercise generally. Their brains are going at 100 miles an hour. We're all told these days that we're great at multitasking, so we try and make ourselves great at multitasking. We all have this to-do list that's absolutely ridiculous, relentless, and never ending. I think, many of us, but I see it particularly in young women, we're just trying to do too much. And it's very easy and very glib for me to be able to say to people, look, you've just got to do less. But seriously, we have to do less. And we have to choose the battles that we want to fight and decide where we want to put our energy. I think we need to treat our energy as a very precious resource. And we need to think about it more like that, so that we go, you know what, today, this is what I'm achieving. This is what I'm going to get done. And everything else is going to be put on the back burner, or I'll do this tomorrow. And stop expecting so much of ourselves. I think that really is a key.
I think that pretty well sums it up beautifully. I like that.
Great. Glad you do.
Let us know your thoughts. We'd love to hear from you. To know what's happening in your world with food, health and nutrition. Send your ideas and questions to contact@carolinenutrition.com. The links to all the social media channels and iTunes, as well as your favourite podcatcher, are on the site at carolinenutrition.com, so you'll never miss an episode. Well, like I said, it'd be lovely to hear from you, and I would love to know your stories in regards to your energy levels and what you've done. Like I said, mine has improved immensely since I started eating less fruit, and I would never have imagined that was possible. So next time, what are we going to hit up for, Caroline? What are we going to be talking about?
Yeah, this is a subject I'm really interested in, and I've been learning an awful lot of new stuff about recently. So I really want to explore Alzheimer's. I know we've spoken previously on the podcast about diabetes, and I really want to show you the links between Alzheimer's and diabetes, Alzheimer's and poor energy levels, Alzheimer's and inflammation. And there are some really amazing new stuff to talk about. It's a thoroughly preventable disease, and I think it's important that people get to know that.
Can we do it in one episode, do you think?
Yeah, probably.
Okay. Great. Well, that's it for episode 4. Let's move forward towards episode 5. Thanks, Caroline.
Thanks, Ian. That was awesome.
Yeah. See you next time, everybody. Bye-bye for now.